Today we're going to recreate Call of Duty Zombies spawning system with the zombies we've created in the past episodes. The formulas Call of Duty uses to spawn their zombies are very specific and took some research to find, and we're going to do our best to replicate the same ones they use in our game here. So the very first thing we're going to need is an actor to spawn our zombies. Now I think I'm going to spawn them in this room over here, so I'm going to delete this door, and we'll add a kind of barrier later. So first things first, let's go into content blueprints, and I'm going to create a new folder for the zombie spawner, and then a new actor inside of that. Inside of it, I'm going to add an arrow so we can see which direction the actor is facing. And in the event graph, we're going to need a custom event for actually spawning the zombie. Inside this custom event, we can call the spawn actor. And the actor we want to spawn is our AI zombie. The transform is going to be the location of this blueprint that we're in. So I'm going to get the actor location and rotation. And that's all we're going to do in here for now. Let's go ahead and add a spawner into the world so we have one. I'm going to rotate it so the arrow faces the door, and I'm going to bring it up a bit just to make sure that these zombies don't spawn underneath the floor. So we're going to control how the zombies get spawned and how many in our game mode. So we're using the default game mode at the moment because we have no game mode override here in the world settings, so we're going to go create our own. So in the blueprints folder, I'm going to create a new blueprint, game mode base, and I'm going to call it game mode zombies. If you're curious about when to use game modes, game states, or game instances, you can pause on this screen to read about the differences, or at least look at the diagram at the bottom to demonstrate. This is a page from my Unreal Engine cheat sheet, which is available for free on my website, and I'll link it in the description. So let's open up our world settings here. If you don't have this tab, you can just go to Window, World Settings, and let's change our game mode override to the one we just made. So for this level specifically, it'll be using our new game mode instead of the default. Now we need to change the default pawn in our game mode because it's set to default, and that's actually not what we want to control. We're using the first person character, and that'll make sure that our first person character is what spawned in the world, not our default pawn. The default pawn is just kind of this floating orb where you can fly around the scene. So we're going to need a good amount of variables in our game mode to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. So the first one I want is a round number so we know what round we're on. This will be an integer, and it can default at 0. The next one we need is the max amount of zombies that we can have in our level at one time. This is not the amount of zombies that will be spawned, it'll be once this amount of zombies is in our world, it won't spawn any others until at least one has died. This makes sure our engine is not overloaded with AI, and the Call of Duty number is 24. So let's go ahead and compile and make the default 24. Now we're going to use this number in our formula for amount of zombies spawned per round. So if you make this max zombies in level a higher or lower number, you'll get less or more zombies total per round. So just keep that in mind, or when we create our formula, use a separate variable. You'll see what I mean when we get to it. Next variable we need is the amount of time we want to wait between each spawn. And I'm going to make this a float and just default it to, let's say, 2 seconds. So let's create a custom event for starting the next round. And the first thing we need to calculate is how many zombies will get spawned. I found multiple results for how Call of Duty calculates their zombies, but one I found that seems to work pretty well is you take the round number times 0.15 times our max amount of zombies, which is 24. This seems to give us a pretty accurate number of zombies per round, except for round 1, but we can go ahead and enter that manually. So let's take the round number. We're going to multiply it by 0.15, which is a float, so we need to right click on the pin and convert it to a float. And then we multiply this by our max zombies in level. Now let's go ahead and round this because it won't give us a round number. And promote this to a variable. We're going to call it total zombies in round. Great. But we don't want to plug this in directly because if it's round 1, it's only going to give us like 3 zombies and we want something like 6 or 7. So let's break this and get a select. And we just want to check if the round number is number 1. And if it is, we can go ahead and just put in a number manually. I believe they give you 6 zombies if you start. If not, you can change that to whatever. And then if it's not, we can just go ahead and put that into the false, and that'll calculate every other number. Now, after we know how many zombies need to spawn in our round, we need to set a timer to start spawning the zombies. So let's go ahead and set timer by event. And this needs to plug into a custom event. So let's make one. And the time for this timer is going to be our time between each spawn. And then we want to make sure we're checking looping, so it is always looping. Now we want to spawn from our BP zombie spawner, so we need to get that actor. So we're going to get all actors of class. And the class we want is our zombie spawner. And from this, we're just going to get the first one. Because we only have 1 in our world right now, so it's going to get whatever number 0 is, which is the one we placed right here. And we just want to call that spawn function we made at the beginning of the episode, which will spawn a zombie. Now later we can go ahead and change this to be whatever spawner is closest to the player, because right now if you put multiple spawn points, it'll only ever spawn from whatever the first one was, but we're not going to do that this episode. I'll save it for next time. Now we need to know how many zombies have been spawned because we have to make sure that it doesn't surpass the total amount of zombies in rounds. So we're going to create a new variable called zombies spawned. This will be an integer, and we just have to increment it every time we spawn one. So this will just add 1 to that number. Now before we do all this, before we start spawning, we just want to make sure that we haven't already gotten to our max amount. So let's add a branch. We just want to make sure the amount of zombies spawned is less than the total zombies in the round. So if this is true, it'll keep spawning until we have enough zombies, and then it will stop. And once we stop, I also want to stop this timer because it will keep calling it just for it to do nothing. So if we grab this return value here, we can type clear and invalidate timer by handle, except we don't want it to be connected right here because it'll clear instantly. Instead, we want to do it from right there. All right, we're going to need a third custom event to increase the round number. So let's make that. And we just want to take our round number, increment it, which is just adding 1. And then we can start the round, except I'm going to add a little delay because I don't want the next round to start, the instant that the last round ends. So let's add a delay. Something like 5 seconds sounds good to me. And then we will call start round. Now, if we want to test it, let's just go ahead and increase the round in the begin play. And since our round number is defaulted to 0, it'll go up to 1. We'll delay 5 seconds, we'll start the round. Since it's 1, we will add 6 zombies, and it'll spawn 6 zombies waiting 2 seconds in between each one, and then it should stop at 6. And then the next rounds will be calculated from this formula. So let's go ahead and give that a test. So it should wait 5 seconds, then they should start spawning, and let's count to 6 to make sure it gives us the amount. Oh, okay, so they're not moving, and I know why, because I missed a step. Let's go ahead and go into Content, AI Zombie, and select AI Zombie Self here. And when we have the Auto Possess AI, we only have it to placed in world, but we're spawning our zombies rather than placing them. So we need to change this to placed in world or spawned. And now they should work as intended. So 5 seconds, and there we go. They're coming towards us. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the last one, see no others are spawning behind him. And the round has ended. What we also need to do is to make sure we can never have more than 24 zombies in our level at one time, which we set with this variable right here, max zombies at level 24. So to do that is just before we spawn, but after this branch to check, we just want to do another check and make sure there's less than 24 zombies. So let's get a branch. And we need to get all the zombies in our level and count them. So let's get a get all actors of class. The class is our AI zombie. And we can just get our length. And this gives us the number of actors in the level. And we just want to make sure it's less than or equal to the max zombies. And just plug that in. So if that's true, if we have less than 24, it'll just spawn like normal. If it's false, it just won't spawn, it'll skip it. But the timer is still running, so it'll wait another second and it'll try again. Wait another second, try again. So once we do eventually kill a zombie, it'll try again. Now we have 23 zombies and it'll run. Lastly, we just need to check if we killed all the zombies so we can start the next round. So we want to make sure there are 0 zombies and we've already spawned all the zombies. So after we clear and invalidate this timer, after we spawned everything, we want to set this zombie spawned to 0 to reset it. And then I want to create a boolean just to confirm that we spawned them all. So let's call it spawned all zombies. And let's make it a boolean. And after we do all this, let's set that to true. Now, if this is true, then we want to start the next round. So, but only once we've killed all these zombies that have been spawned. So I'm going to put that in the tick. So first we can call a branch and just make sure all the zombies have been spawned. So the tick's not running all this code unless we spawned all our zombies. And we just want to make sure our the amount of zombies in our level is 0. So we can just copy this here, paste it in. We're getting all of our zombie actors. We're checking the length, and if it's less than or equal to 0, then we want to start the next round. So we already have our custom event, increase round. Now in increase round, we want to set this boolean back to false because now we have no longer spawned all the zombies. So let's do it right before here, just to make sure we get no frames where that tick is being called again, because we don't want it to accidentally increase the round twice. So set that back to false. Okay, before we test this again to make sure it's increasing, let's add a temporary zombie counter to the HUD just so we can see what round we're on. So let's go into our content, and I never remember where I put it, so I'm just going to search for it. Main HUD, it's in game/FPS. Oh, it's a weird place to put it. I should probably move that. Let's just make this real quick, because it's temporary. So I'm going to take the text, I'm going to put it in the lower left, I'm going to anchor it to the lower left, and I'm just going to set the text to 0. Maybe increase the size a bit to like 45. Okay, and then on the text, we're just going to create a binding, and we want to get the round number from our game mode. So we need to cast to our game mode, which we call GM Zombies, and the object is just our game mode. Okay, and then we can just get the round number from the game mode, and just plug it right into our return value. And this is all a-okay. So let's go ahead and test this out. So once we kill the 6 zombies, it should delay 5 seconds and start the next round. You can see it says 1 in the lower corner, so I'll probably speed this footage up. And that's 6. So 5 seconds about should pass, and I believe we should get about 7 zombies. It's either 7 or 8 in the next round based off the formula, and then the next round is 10, then 13, 17, it incrementally moves upwards. So now it's round 2. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so I guess round 2 is 7, and then once again we're waiting, and it'll go to round 3, which you'll see in the bottom left about now. Yep. And then in a couple seconds, the next zombies will start spawning, and so on and so forth. So that actually just works right how we want it. The only other thing I want to add before we wrap this video up is actually to change the zombies' health per round. So in Black Ops Zombies, their health starts at 150 and increases by 100 every single round until round 10, and then their health is multiplied by 1.1 every round from there. So it grows linearly until round 10, and then it grows exponentially. Now in the zombie spawner, when we spawn our zombie, we want to set its max health. So I'm going to get the BPC health, which is the blueprint component we made. And we can just set the max health. And we will set it to an input of this so we can set it elsewhere. And just to be safe, let's set the current health too. And we'll just set that to the same number. We'll just pass it through. Okay, back in the game mode, we go down here where we spawn zombies. When we call the spawn, we now have this input for max health. We're gonna make it a variable in the game mode because we have to remember what it was previously. And let's go ahead and make it an integer. I guess it could be a float too, but it doesn't matter. And by default, we actually want it to be 50. And this is because we start, we quote unquote start at round 0. So when round 1 starts, it'll add 100. So we actually start at 150. So we can just plug in this max health variable into that. And then we need to change it when the round increases. So we're going to do it after the round number increases, but before the delay. Just going to move this out of the way real quick. So we can set the max health based off the round. So like I said, for the first 9 rounds, it will just add 100. So, and then it'll change. So we need a select, since we have 2 different ways of adding health here. So the index will be based on if our round number is less than 10. So a number less than 10. Now, if that's true, we just need to get our max health and add 100 to it. So get max health plus 100. And if it's false, we need to multiply it by 1.1. So get max health, multiply by 1.1, which is just the same as adding 10% every time. Oh, we need to right click, convert pin to float if we need decimals. And then it should truncate, yeah, which is fine. Now, this is how they do it in some of the games, but I believe in others they actually have a cap because, with exponential increasing, it will get just so impossibly hard at one point. I believe by like round 100, their health is in the millions. So if you want to cap it off at a certain amount, we can just get a clamp. And then the minimum can be 0, but the maximum can be whatever maximum health you think they should have. So by round 10, it gets up to 950, and then it starts going up. So maybe and it starts getting to thousands. So maybe like 10,000, which is still, a pretty strong zombie to beat, but it's not just absolutely impossible like the millions are. So up to you if you want to include that. Let's go ahead and go to the tick and just print this so that we can see it happening in real time. Before anything, I'm just going to print the max health. And for duration, I'm going to plug in delta seconds so it doesn't flood our screen. And just to test this, because I want to see the rounds go up quickly, I'm going to make a couple changes. So, you don't have to make these changes. What we have here is how it should work, but I'm just going to make changes for it to work faster. So I'm going to make no delay for the round increasing, and I'm just gonna set the total number of zombies in round to be 1. So it's just 1 zombie, they die quick, and the rounds go up quick. So let's go ahead and test this out. So in the upper left, you can see their health there, so 150. We kill him, round 2, now it's 250. Round 3, 350. It'll slowly increase like this, all the way up to 950. So I'll just speed through that. So if you could tell through the sped up footage that it's getting a little harder to kill him every single round because their health is up. It's now at 950, and now when I kill him, it's multiplied by 1.1, so it's 1045. 1045 by 1.1 is 1149. And it's taking a little longer to kill him each time. 1263 is their health now. I'm out of ammo on my gun, so let me switch to a different one. 1389. You can see it's taken much longer to kill him, especially with a slower firing gun with this than I don't think I made the damage very high on. So yeah, so that's the essential process of creating a round-based system. Remember, without these changes, it wouldn't be one zombie a round. It slowly increases every time. By the time you're at, around 100, you're getting like 100 zombies per round, although there will only ever be 24 in your level at any given time. That's just to make sure the engine doesn't crash. So it's pretty customizable. So I hope, and it works for so many different things, not just Call of Duty Zombies. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And here's your second reminder to like and subscribe. And remember, I have the Unreal Engine cheat sheet on my website in the link in the description. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Darling,